Over and over again. I can assure you, Uncle Jed, we will be here again. I don't know how many years to come, and we will be still fighting. So this is the context. But you talked about November 2017. During the coup was supported by opposition, civil society, ordinary citizens, because of the hope that President Mnangagwa would turn the corner. But that did not happen. He squandered the goodwill that he was given by the citizens. And I don't blame the opposition for supporting the removal of President Mugabe. But I blame ZANU-PF for squandering the goodwill that it was given by the citizens. And for me, the greatest lesson in 2017 is that there are political negotiations, is that when there are political negotiations, where political actors have to make some concessions and compromises, there must be a written agreement before action is taken. If you go to Kenya, Uncle Jed, the former Vice President Rigathi Gachagua, when he was ousted, he said, my greatest regret in politics is that I did not write it down in my agreement with President William Ruto in the run-up to the 2022 elections. So wherever these negotiations take place, there has to be a written agreement which is made public, and potentially there's need to include even eminent persons in that agreement who are witnesses of that particular agreement. I'm not saying that if there was an agreement in 2017, then ZANU-PF would not have reneged on the agreement. No, they could have still done the same thing, but at least we would have a reference point to say this was the agreement that was in place and people supported this agreement, but look at what the regime has done. Okay, go to Lancaster House. There were questions to do with the promises to fund the land reform program, but there was no written commitment to that. So there is always a need for a written commitment before any form of action is taken. For me, that was the greatest problem with the 2017 question. Now, let me go now to the priorities, Uncle Jed. And I know I've taken some minutes, but I will try to compose what I'm going, because some of the things have already been discussed in these spaces. So I think that if it happens that General Chiwenga becomes the next president in Zimbabwe, the first priority should be the establishment of a national transitional authority or a government of national unity. These are two different things. I would lean towards a GNU than towards a national transitional authority, and I will say why. Because a national transitional authority usually takes place after a huge, of course, political upheaval. And it shouldn't include people who have vested interest. This will automatically disqualify people like General Chiwenga. He cannot be the leader of a national transitional authority. We will need fresh people, people who are able to take the country back to democratic politics, particularly the holding of free and fair elections. But politically, I know Professor Ibo Mandaza has called for a national transitional authority. That's an ideal pathway. But politically, it is problematic in the sense that those who are fighting now, remember they fought to remove Mugabe, they are fighting now. They cannot fight, and at the end of that fight, they say, we are allowing a national transitional authority, because it will them simply means they are ceding power to the opposition, particularly to Advocate Nelson Chamisa, the most popular opposition leader now. So politically, I don't think they will accept something like that. You understand? That's why I think, although it is ideal, it is not something that I think they will accept. I think that they need an arrangement where they may be in control and cede power gradually. rather than abruptly, because they have vested interest to protect. That's why I'm saying probably a GNU would be the best option. But of course, we have the history of the 2008, 2009, 2013 GNU, which failed to deliver the reforms. So any talk of the GNU is likely to raise doubts among us because of our experience before. But what I'm saying here is that this GNU now, it should be a genuine one whose main focus is to transform Zimbabwe from the politics of divisions and exclusion to the politics of unit, inclusion, and from the politics of contested elections to free and fair elections. That should be the primary mandate of this GNU, right? So this GNU is the one that is supposed to now implement the other 14 priorities that I'm talking about. And I deliberately call them non-negotiable, because without those priorities, and they are not exhaustive, there are others. That's why I'm here to also hear from the audience. There are others, but at least those should be the bare minimum of our demands. To say if we are to participate in anything, these are the demands that we put forward. Without a guarantee that these demands are going to be met, then there's no value in any form of participation and engagement. So that's number one, GNU. So priority number two now, going back, Mnangagwa, to the values that undergirded the liberation struggle. You know, the liberation struggle was about land, it was about collective prosperity, it was about restoring the dignity of the people of Zimbabwe. But today, people are walking on raw sewage, admitted to public hospitals and learning institutions that are derelict. We drive on roads that are infested with potholes. We use a dehumanizing public transport system, Mnangagwa. System yekuti hunhu hunovhiswa so vanhu vachifamba road. We don't want that. We are living without water and electricity. Our children are learning under trees, and our soldiers are being used to protect the Chinese, who are plundering our communities, destroying our environment, dispossessing our villages, and abusing our people. So that should be the second priority. We need to go back to those values to say what was the liberation struggle about. And what is tragic, Mnangagwa, is that the very people who claim that they fought the liberation struggle are the first people to desecrate these particular values. It is extremely tragic. Value number three, Mnangagwa, we need the building of independent institutions, especially the army, the police, the CIO, and the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and of course the judiciary. We know how these institutions have undermined the democratic processes in Zimbabwe. We know, I talked about the army, particularly since 2008. The police, the same thing. People who commit violence, who are supporters of ZANU-PF, they are not arrested. When the opposition wants to have meetings, they are not allowed, and all that. We know the rigging done by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. We know the judiciary, how it weaponized the law against the opponents of ZANU-PF. Of course, we know the Central Intelligence Organization. We know that each time you mention that organization, thoughts of covert and overt operations of abusing and abducting people come to your mind. We don't want institutions like that. And I say this, Mnangagwa, that when we demand independent institutions, we are not saying it for the good of us. We are saying it for the good of everyone. Imagine now, if we have independent institutions, those people who are in ZANU-PF, who are opposed to the 2030 agenda, they would approach the courts and challenge it in the courts, but they can't do that because we don't have independent institutions. When the 2017 coup took place, I asked myself when I heard Zvadhakwa saying that Mavinga played an important role when I needed assistance during the coup and after the coup. They did not need the assistance of Mavinga, may his soul rest in peace. They needed the assistance of independent institutions. You may not see that you need them now, but surely there will come a time when you will see that we need them now. We all need them. So a right-thinking person knows that we need independent institutions. They are good for everyone, not for the opposition and its supporters that are rooted in Zimbabwe's cultural heritage. Look here, when we attained independence, and I'm talking about Africa in general, we inherited the governance systems that were imposed by the colonial project. These systems, they are alien to our ways of life as Africans. And they have produced mixed outcomes. They have produced polarization, disunity, and all forms of problems. And I believe that the best governance systems for any country are governance systems that are rooted in the ways of life of that particular people, and of course enriched by progressive and select elements of liberal democracy. So as Africans, we need to rethink our governance systems. I don't have the answer today, but certainly we need to go back to governance systems that are rooted in our ways of life. Priority number 6, of course, we need to reform the economy and build new infrastructure, especially our roads, our hospitals, our schools, and universities. I'm not going to detail with that. Priority number 7, these are demands. We need to outlaw select raw materials and focus on beneficiation. Ango Jed, we are exporting our raw materials, and then we buy the finished products at very expensive prices, and we are losing because of that. So whatever the circumstances, we must always be the biggest beneficiaries of our own resources. But this can only happen if we stop selling raw materials and focus on beneficiation, where we add value to our raw materials.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.